Francisco de Zurbarán is one of Spain's greatest painters. He's born in 1598 in Extremadura, right at Spain's western edge, but he spends most of his life in Seville. That's the city with which he's really associated. The paintings that Zurbarán produces, they are characterized by their very, very sculptural figures, by their dramatic lighting, and by his intense naturalism.
And he does it at all kinds of scale. He does things that are absolutely huge. And he also makes things that are, small enough to just hold in your hand.
It's the first major exhibition devoted to Zurbarán in Britain. It's long, long overdue, and we really hope that you enjoy it too. This enormous crucifixion you see behind me is Zurbarán's first signed and dated works. On that tiny little crumpled bit of paper at the bottom of the crucifixion, we see his name and the date 1627. And it's the painting that really establishes his reputation in Seville. One 18th century writer writing about the picture says that anyone who saw it in the church and didn't know otherwise believed it to be a sculpture. So right from the beginning of his career, Zurbarán has these highly sculptural figures, this very, very dramatic lighting. Here, there's this almost monochrome palette, which just makes the body feel so real and so viscerally present in front of us. It's a picture that made his name and from which many, many commissions followed. We are stood here in front of the Virgin of the Rosary with Carthusians, and this is a picture that we've included in the show to show the scale at which Zurbarán is working on some of his religious commissions. So he works for different religious orders across southern Spain, all of whom are competing to have the most beautiful, the most grandly decorated, the most lavish spaces. This picture comes from the charter house, the Carthusian monastery at Jerez de la Frontera. It's a commission that Zurbarán gets in the late 1630s. It is a monumental commission. So you can see here 3 pictures behind me. This is one tier of a 3-tier altarpiece. Now, we've reunited these pictures for the first time in about 175 years to give you a sense of the scale. But if you imagine that the finished ensemble would have been more than 2, maybe even 3 times as tall as this, it'll give you a sense of the grandeur of the spaces in which Zurbarán is working, the demands being placed on his pictures to have paintings that can work at that scale, that can feel sumptuous and powerful and tell you kind of amazing stories at such a distance that can be clear even when you're looking at them, maybe 15 meters high in the air, as this altarpiece would originally have been.
One of Zurbarán's greatest accomplishments are his single-figure standing female saints, often called his santas. And the picture that we're looking at here is Santa Casilda of Toledo, painted about 1635. Saint Casilda is this 10th century Muslim princess who has a miracle happen, which is that she's smuggling bread rolls down to the Christian prisoners that her father has kept in the castle keep. And in that moment, in the moment in which she is caught taking these bread rolls down, they turn into roses. And that's the miracle that we see portrayed by Zurbarán in this wonderful picture. But it's not so much, I think, about the saint. It's really about how Zurbarán represents the costume. This amazing sort of silk dress, wonderfully ornate. You can see just how much the painter has worked to make sort of the folds of the fabric resonate with the pattern on it. This painting and paintings like it give you some idea of why it is that Zurbarán has often been called sort of the first Spanish fashion designer, and why a designer like Cristobal Balenciaga would have been so interested in his work. He shows us these luxurious fabrics that have tremendous volume, and they give both to these pictures and to the dresses that Balenciaga based on them a real sort of vivid and lifelike effect.
Recently attributed to Zurbarán, the painting behind me is unique in Baroque art, and its origins are mysterious. Titled A Colossal Head, it is, as you can hopefully tell, colossal. It's about 2.5 meters tall, and it depicts this very fierce face looking down on us with a certainly very kind of severe expression. And it's a bit of a cliche to say, but you really do feel as if the eyes follow you around the room. This is a picture that's first documented in 1661 in Madrid on the staircase in the royal palace, the Buen Retiro, where we know that Zurbarán has been called previously to work for King Philip IV of Spain. And it's a painting that doesn't have an artist's name attached to it in these early records, but it's remarked upon for how strange it is and how imposing. It's been suggested that this could have been perhaps painted as something to do with theatre or theatre set or a kind of court masquerade of some kind, but we don't really have any documentation to prove that for us. It's the first time that this has been included in an exhibition given to Zurbarán. So we're really excited to show the picture here, not only to test out the attribution, do we feel that actually it does feel like a work by Zurbarán's hand, but also in case exhibiting it here helps us uncover some other reference or inventory or description that's going to help us understand this very imposing and very intriguing painting.
Zurbarán is one of the greatest still life painters of the 17th century in Spain, despite the fact that he only paints about 10 of them in his entire career. We're standing in front of a still life with lemons, oranges, and a rose, which is an exceptional loan to us from the Norton Museum in California. It's signed and dated in 1633, and it's the only signed and dated still life that Francisco makes in his entire career. It's extraordinary because it has this really exquisite geometry, this balance across three elements, perfectly aligned on a polished wooden tabletop. And it is a picture that I think begs you to look at it very closely. It's a meditative kind of atmosphere that it gives you, despite its austerity. The exquisite geometry of the picture, its balance, when it was first discovered in the 1920s, led it to be compared to works by Cézanne and Picasso, because it has an almost abstract quality to it. These are the kinds of things that I think make this picture what it is, one of the great icons of 17th century Spanish painting. We're standing in front of the Agnus Dei, or Lamb of God in Latin, one of Zurbarán's most superb canvases. There are several versions of this painting, but this one from the Prado is by far the finest, for the way that Zurbarán, with his superlative brushwork, has been able to pick out the plush fleece, ivory in color that you can almost sink your fingers into. It's also a painting that plays and blurs the boundary a little bit between the sacred and the everyday, between the religious and the secular. Because looking at it, of course, it is a Lamb of God, a representation of Christ's sacrifice. But at the same time, it is also a real young lamb, about 8 to 12 months in age, that's laid out on a ledge with its limbs bound as though ready to be slaughtered. And Zurbarán, as so often in his painting, transmits this to us through his ability to represent real things. In this case, a young merino lamb, the kind that he would have probably seen in Seville, and from which many of the fabrics that he paints were woven.
It has been such a thrill to get to spend this much time with Zurbarán, to put this exhibition together, to bring together works really from all over the world.
From the US, from Europe, from private collections, from public collections, and I think the idea is to show them all here to you.
And we really hope that you will have a chance to come and see the exhibition and to discover this extraordinary artist for yourself here in London.